Good day, students. We want to look at this question 3. It was also taken from February, March of 2021. This is a question on identifying ions. The ions that we have in chemistry are of two types. We have the positive ions and have the negative ions. Unfortunately, you are supposed to be familiar with the positive test for all these ions, okay? There is a book that we actually can use for our help. The book is called Save My Exams. I prefer this book because the notes in there are written by expert chemistry teachers, former teachers, and chemistry writers. Okay, so you can actually refer to it in addition to the standard textbooks that we find in your high school. Okay, right. So we want to look at this question, which was saying two solids C and D were analyzed. Tests were done on each solid. Okay, right. So this is usually the way the questions are asked. In one case, they will ask you, they will tell you that solid D contained this anion and this cation, and you are supposed to actually write down the results that are obtained when we use certain reagents. All right. And one of the things that you're also supposed to be familiar with are flame tests. Okay, you need to be familiar with your flame test. Okay, we have standard flame test for our group 1 metal ions and group 2 metal ions. Okay, for instance, for lithium, if we have the lithium ion present and we perform a flame test, we get a red color. For sodium, we have a yellow color. For potassium, we have a lilac color, and calcium, we have an orange-red color, and copper, we have a blue-green flame that we actually have there. So you need to know whenever we are told that a flame test was carried out on solid C, a red flame was seen. Okay, they have already told you indirectly that the cation that is present here is actually lithium. Okay, right. And remembering that all salts are made up of two parts, the cation part and the anionic part. So for solid C, already we know that the red flame was seen. So what we have here is actually lithium. All right. So as long as you remember your flame test, then you will be fine. Okay. So the moment you get to this point, okay, and you are told that a red flame was seen, all we are saying here is the ion that is present is actually lithium +1. Okay, that is what that observation means. And then we actually move on to the next. Okay, we are now going to do further tests to actually find out, okay, what is the anion present. Okay, right. So let's go down and analyze what we are having here. Solid C was dissolved in distilled water to produce solution C. It's now a solution. Add about 5 cubic centimeters of aqueous sodium hydroxide until there's no change. In other words, in excess. Okay, sodium hydroxide is a standard reagent that is looking for the anion part. Okay, so we have sodium hydroxide, and then test 3, a piece of aluminum was added to the mixture formed in test 2. So what you should know is the procedure. All right. Once you're familiar with the procedure, then you don't have a problem. If a person says add dilute nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, already in your mind, you should actually have the knowledge to say, okay, these reagents, one after the other, they are looking for this. Okay, right. So sodium hydroxide followed by aluminum foil and effervescence, damp red litmus paper turns blue. Okay, that is nitrate. Okay, and the gas that we produce here is ammonia. All right, so the confirmatory test to tell you that ammonia is present, you have ammonia is produced, is nitrate. Okay, so from test 1 to test 3, already we have our salt, because we actually, what we had here is we had a red flame from this part. Okay, the red flame that was produced in that part is actually telling us that this part here, okay, is for lithium. So once you've done this part, you know that, okay, lithium ion is seen. You can actually be doing this on your paper as you're going down. And now you have sodium hydroxide here, followed by aluminum foil, and then we have that, okay? So test 1, test 2, test 3, all these, one after the other, they are actually telling you that at the end of the day, what you have here is a nitrate ion that we are having. So if you combine these two, this one and that one, okay, these two actually will tell you that there is lithium nitrate, which is your salt here. All right, that's how this part of paper 6 work. You have to know the standard procedures that we use, okay? So as you practice, draw the table of your reagents and the precipitate formed for both your cations and for anions. What you should have is, first of all, flame test for cations, and then standard test for cations and standard test for anions. And then lastly, you have your standard test for gases. If you do this, you learn these tables for this alternative to practical paper, you are not going to have any challenges at all. Okay. All right, so that's fine. So let's move down and look at what was being asked next down there. We have actually written our notes in the table. So these notes in the table must help us to answer A and B. Name the gas that is produced. You see, as I've told you from our notes, we know that ammonia, okay? Ammonia is produced, okay? Please write in full unless the examiner tells you to do so, okay? If you are going to write the formula, make sure you write correctly, okay? Ammonia is produced. This is the formula for ammonia, okay? If you write NH4, you are looking at the ammonium ion. It becomes wrong. So whenever you are given an option, it's better to write in words so that you don't lose marks unnecessarily, okay? And then we are now going to be told identify solid C, okay? Identify solid C. Solid C is going to be lithium nitrate. So we have lithium nitrate, okay? Right, that's why you are seeing that there are 2 marks here. 1 mark is for identifying the positive part of the salt, and the other mark is for identifying the negative part of the salt. You are writing 1 line and getting 2 marks because you derived the answer from the table. Please just have these tables. I will repeat. Flame tests, okay? Learn the flame test, and then table number 2, your standard test for your cations, okay? And then table number 3, your standard test for anions, and then table number 4, your test for gases. These 4 tables, you are supposed to analyze them. Be familiar with the reagents that you use. But for your cations, make sure you have 2 columns. Test using ammonia, test using sodium hydroxide. In some cases, you might have white precipitate in both cases, but what happens in excess will be different, as you are going to see in the next question. Okay, right. So these are the expected answers in this table. Right, let's move on and look at the next question. We have done the first part of the solid. Now we want to move on to the other solid that was mentioned there. So let's go to the next page and let's see what is being done on solid D. Now here, they've actually told you what is the nature of solid D. So you want to use the outline there to actually conclude that, indeed, it was aluminum sulfate, okay? Right, so aqueous sodium hydroxide was added dropwise and then in excess to the first portion of the substance. So what is the observation, okay? Aqueous sodium hydroxide, you should know that I'm looking at the positive part, the cationic part of the salt. So here, you are going to write 2 things. Please, whenever sodium hydroxide is mentioned, tell us what we see, the color of the precipitate, and what happens in excess. So what we need to write down here is we first tell the examiner the color of the precipitate. This is the standard with sodium hydroxide and ammonia. So the first part of our answer is going to be white precipitate, okay? Not white solution, white precipitate, okay? White precipitate. And then what happens with this white precipitate? You see, the white precipitate dissolves, okay? Dissolves in excess. The white precipitate dissolves in excess to form a clear solution. Whenever we are doing this test in the lab, sometimes students struggle to see the aluminum ion because it's very sensitive to the quantity of sodium hydroxide that you add. Once you put excess, sometimes a student will say there was no chemical reaction. If you just put a drop, you see the white precipitate. 2-3 drops, the solution is gone, the precipitate is gone, and then you have a white clear solution. Right, so white precipitate dissolves in excess to form a clear solution. That's why the examiner is giving you 2 marks there. All right, fine. So let's move on to the next question. Like I said, we have ammonia and we have sodium hydroxide. Tell us what we see when you have not added excess, and then tell us what is going to happen when you have added excess of the quantity. This is the standard for ammonia, even if the question doesn't say precipitation first and then what happens in excess. So for instance, when you have ammonia now, you need to be careful, okay? Ammonia is different from sodium hydroxide. In what sense? First of all, our answers are the same, okay? We have white precipitate. So initially, white precipitate with sodium hydroxide, white precipitate with ammonia. But now, with ammonia, okay, the precipitate is insoluble. Precipitate, okay, is insoluble in excess. Now, do you see the difference? Okay, with sodium hydroxide, it was soluble, but with ammonia, the white precipitate formed here is insoluble in excess. You need to be very, very careful about that, okay? Make sure you understand this, especially for your anions, because they are tested in different ways. The way we test for halides is different from the way we test for nitrates, even the way we test for the sulfate, okay? But the moment I see reagents following one after the other, I know what we are looking for. In some cases, positive test, in other cases, negative test, okay? About 1 cubic centimeter of dilute nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, okay? So this test by itself, okay? Once we have dilute nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, this test by itself is a test for halides, okay? What do you mean by halides? We are looking at your chloride, okay? You are looking at your bromide, okay? You are also looking at your iodide, okay? They have different precipitates here. This one will be this precipitate produced here will be white precipitate, cream precipitate, yellow precipitate, okay? As long as you have these two, what you're looking for is halide. But because we have been told the nature of our solid here, the examiner actually told us the nature of the solid that we have. Our solid is aluminum sulfate, but now we are looking for chloride. So what do we expect? There will be no change because the test is a standard test for chloride, but the question says this is what? This is actually aluminum sulfate, okay? So in this one, we are going to say no change. All right, I hope you understand what we mean here. All right, fine. And then the last question, about 1 cubic centimeter of dilute nitric acid followed by a few drops of barium nitrate. That's the key word. If you know your reagents, you will not have any problem, okay? Dilute nitric acid followed by barium nitrate. The previous one was dilute nitric acid followed by silver nitrate, okay? This one now is a standard test for sulfate. What was the question saying? There is sulfate present. So our answer is going to be what? Now we are actually testing for sulfates here, and sulfates are actually present according to what we have been told at the top there. So here we are going to have a white precipitate. We are going to have a white precipitate. All right, because this is a standard test for sulfates, and our solution actually has sulfate. This is one way of looking at the table for qualitative analysis as a way of identifying ions that are present when we are dealing with ionic substances. Once again, before I conclude, you need the following tables. You need a table for your flame tests, okay? You need your table testing for cation ions, all right, using ammonia and sodium hydroxide. Be familiar with the color of the precipitate, what happens when we add the substance or the reagent in excess. You need to know the test for your anions, okay, the nitrate, the sulfate, and the halides, okay. Know the reagents and the precipitate produced. After that, you then move on to your test for gases. As you are revising for this paper, especially this question, if you do that, you will be in a position to score high marks. Thank you. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to like and share this video, and even to subscribe to my channel so that you will receive a notification whenever I upload another video, which will help us in the revision as we move slowly towards the final exams. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.